Hey y'all, I'm going to try to do this in one recording, so if I mess up, bear with me. But I want to go ahead and get you started on the first few pages of Oedipus. You only need to read up to page 165 for this first part, just because there's so much information that you need to know. So, one thing about Oedipus is it's just like every other Greek story. Every single Greek knew this story. Everybody knew what was going on. They knew that Oedipus was known for killing his father and marrying his mother. Hence the Oedipus complex that was um, created years later by Freud, which basically gave the idea that boys are closer to their mothers than they are to their fathers. Um, it's not a true story, but it is a story that has all of the elements of the catharsis. It's the idea that you don't want to be that person. And even though everybody knew that story, Sophocles was a playwright and he put it on stage and made us feel all of those wild things that we feel when we watch plays. Going into a lot of plays, we already know what's going to happen. It's what the actors do to bring it to life. So, on my crazy chicken scratch of annotations, this is the first page. One thing you need to know is the story. Oedipus is our tragic hero, which means he's going to have a downfall. He's a great guy. People like him. He's a great ruler. He loves his mother just like she was her wife. In fact, she was his wife. And he loves his children just like they were his siblings. Well, in fact, they were his siblings. But let's just get past that. So, Oedipus was originally the child of the king of Thebes, Laius, who you will never meet, and Jocasta, who is his wife/mom. And at one point, they were given a prophecy that their son would kill their mother, kill their father, and marry their mother. So they did what all great parents would do. They sent their child off to be killed so that he wouldn't do that. So they gave him to this shepherd, and the shepherd took him out into the wilderness, tied him up by the ankles, and hung him off a cliff. And he felt so guilty that he ended up saving this poor child and giving him to his adoptive parents, who raised him as their own. Well, because Oedipus was chained up by the ankles, he's also known to have a strange limp from childhood, which he doesn't know how he got it. He goes through this entire play not knowing what's going on, except everybody in the audience knows what's going on, hence dramatic irony. And you'll need to remember that as we go. So before this ever happened, Oedipus arrives at the city of Thebes, and there's the Sphinx is at the gates of Thebes, and the Sphinx for years and years and years has been terrorizing the city. And anytime you go up to the city, the Sphinx will ask you a riddle. If you get the riddle wrong, it kills you. If you get it right, you get to enter the city. Well, nobody gets it right. So Oedipus has this huge emotional breakdown when he's young because he gets the prophecy that he will kill his father and marry his mother. Well, he doesn't want to put those wonderful people through that agony, so he runs away, not knowing that they are his adopted parents. And on his journey to run away, he comes across this guy who is traveling down the road, and then this huge, horrible, active road rage kills him. That just happens to be his father, Laius. When he enters the city, he comes across the Sphinx. The Sphinx gives him a riddle. It is what walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the noon, and 3 legs at night. Oedipus, being super smart, figures out that it's man because they're a baby in the morning when they're born, 2 legs in the middle of their day, and then 3 legs at night because old people have canes. Got it? Good. So everybody knows this story. Because he solves this riddle, the Sphinx kills themselves, jumps off the cliff, which for some reason tends to be the first element of suicide known in all of Greek mythology for some reason, and gets to marry the queen, who has recently become a widow because her husband was killed, who is also Oedipus's father. Hence, Oedipus marries his mother. So, knowing all of that building into the background, it's also restated in the middle of Oedipus of this play. So it's real easy for you to skip over that part when you get to it. So the things that you do need to know, and you should write this on every single page if you're annotating: hubris, irony, not just irony, dramatic irony. The concept that the audience knows something that the people on stage do not. Fate and honor. Greeks believed in fate. They believed it was already set up. If you were fated to kill your father and marry your mother, it's going to happen. You just don't know how. And honor is a big thing because Oedipus is very honorable. People like him. He's a great leader. But he has to uphold his end of the bargain when it comes down to saving his city. So as we enter the play, there's a huge, nasty plague that has struck the city, right here underlined. And they've got to figure out how to fix this plague. So Oedipus sends his uncle / brother-in-law to Delphi to ask the oracle what to do. Well, she's going to tell him you have to kill the person responsible for the plague. Oedipus is responsible for the plague. It takes us about half the play to figure that out, only because the blind prophet Tiresias, who shows up in all Greek stories, has to come and tell him that. So look at your annotations here. There are some really good recordings of this. I'm not going to give them to you. You can go find them on your own if you want to listen to them. But they are going to be super dramatic. There's some videos that you should watch to see how masks come in. Remember from your notes that Sophocles was the person who introduced 3 actors to the stage. So we have a chorus in the background, and then we have the 3 actors in the front. And just like at the beginning of the year, when we read Prometheus, there's only 3 actors on stage. And they're all changing out masks, and they're all doing different things. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this play. So I've marked here hubris. Oedipus says, the world knows my fame. I am Oedipus. Well, yeah, but he's still a good king. And he says, I'm ready to help. I'll do anything. Would be blind to misery, not to pity my people. So all of these great things are coming out of his mouth, but at the same time, he's arrogant. But at the same time, the whole audience already knows what's going to happen. So it's just this big, wild mix-up on every single page. All right. So remember your themes: hubris, fate, irony, and honor right here. As you're reading, this is the priest, and he's telling us how bad it is. Red waves of death, the blight of fresh crops and rich pastures, cattle sicken and died, women dying in labor, children are stillborn, the fiery gods of fever, lightning slashing through us. It's bad, y'all. Just like at the beginning of the Iliad, they thought the gods were coming down on them. Now, is it possible because they weren't washing their hands or something? Probably. But they truly believed the gods were doing this to them. Moving on, we're going to, the priest is he's building up Oedipus's hubris. You don't want to upset your king, because he can smote you, he can do all kinds of stuff. So we're going to continue to build up Oedipus. But, once again, he is a good king. So as they're building up his hubris, they want him to be a good ruler. And I want to continue to look for those ideas of hubris, fate, irony, and honor as you're reading this. So Oedipus, in his reading here, no one is as sick as I. Once again, honor. But then here's the irony. I'll be a traitor if I do not do all the God makes clear. Well, he was a traitor because he killed his father. Here comes Creon. Creon is his brother-in-law / uncle. Jocasta's brother. But Creon in this play is a really kind, wonderful, soft-spoken, easygoing Creon. When you read Antigone later, he's a different Creon. He has become the ruler after Oedipus leaves. He becomes very aggressive. So one thing that you are going to be asked to do is look at the Creons from two different plays. So keep that in mind as you read this. So here's the word. This is actually a question on your questions on your PowerPoint. Creon says, suggest we go inside and speak in private. And Oedipus says no. Why does he say no? He wants the people to have complete transparency with him. He wants to let them know that he has their backs. But when they do find out the reason why how they have to end the plague, they have to kill the murderer of Laius, then they get worked up. And the chorus will chime in here in a minute. But every time you read the chorus, just read the annotations. They're slightly confusing. Just know that they have Oedipus's back. They're super supportive of him. And this is where your big dramatic irony is. When Creon says, Laius was killed and Apollo commands us now, pay the killers back, whoever is responsible. Imagine the whole audience gasping at this point because they know who it is. And as much as this whole thing is thrown in Oedipus's face constantly over and over and over again, he still doesn't get it until the end. And this is where I asked y'all that you could go ahead and end on your reading that Creon here in Thebes, he's here, the murderer's here. And he knows that they were all killed but one. He escaped terrified. He could tell nothing clearly. There's one witness left, and they have to find that witness. And that's where the buildup of irony comes. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I will continue with the next reading of Oedipus later. And if you have any questions, please go to the Google Doc and ask questions, and I will be happy to answer them. Or just send me a text through Remind or email me, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks, everybody, for doing your discussion today.